Welcome back to another edition of the Long Run Archives. I am Finn Melanson, joined by friends, colleagues Brett Hornig and Jeff Colt. A lot to discuss today, so we're going to get right into it, starting with the Gorge Waterfalls 100K, 50K, 30K recap. So much to talk about. Jeff, I think first we have to pay homage to your amazing performance there. Where do you want to take this?
With a thank you. It felt really good to
Oh, thank you.
have a strong effort and to have a race that I felt like actually went according to plan. Turns out, we've all learned this before. Sometimes you have a great day and other people have better days, and that is out of my control. But everything that was in my control felt great, and Daybreak put on an amazing race. I think Free Trail did a great job making it engaging and entertaining, and community was all time. And my takeaway is I do think the four runners that were chosen for the U.S. team from that event are amazing representatives for Team USA for the World Mountain Trail Running Championships and the 80K distance.
I feel like, there's a lot of disruption happening in the sport right now in terms of performances. Any given weekend, everything we hold sacred in terms of times, performances, expectations gets blown up. You probably had to assume that it was going to take a near perfect day to get on the team, but did what Adam and Tracen did at the very front of the race, did that surprise you, or were you expecting, for example, Adam to do what he did?
I'm never going to count Adam Peterman out. I've seen him do it before. I'll see him do it again. Tracen definitely surprised me, but seeing how fluid and smooth of a runner Tracen is on technical terrain, it was pretty awesome. Early on in the race, he was leading, and we got to a section that was technical footing. It was wet, it was mossy, and loose rock. And Tracen probably gapped the first 10 guys by something like 30 or 40 meters just by being a confident and competent trail runner. And everyone else who was kind of mixed in, watching the footsteps in front of them, trying to gauge where to put their feet. By the time we got through that section and looked up, Tracen was just out there. And I caught up to him on a road section after that. And I was like, Tracen, that was sick. Mad respect. I have a ton of appreciation for great runners who are really great trail runners. And that was evident from watching Tracen run a bit. He responded. There was a move was made around mile 27, 28, when he and I were running together on a 2.5 mile road stretch. And the front guys, Matt Seidel, Adam Peterman, dropped to kind of 540 pace, and we stayed strong at 610, 615, just kind of watching. And the second we hit the trail, Tracen made his move. And that move brought him from 4th, 5th place with me, passing Adam Peterman by mile 33. He made his moves on the technical terrain where he knew he was stronger. And yeah, I was not expecting at mile 38. I got a split update. I was thinking, maybe I'm 2 or 3 minutes back. There's 25 miles left in this race. And it was Tracen and Adam are together. They're 6 minutes up on you. I was like, holy cow. They just put a serious surge in at a part in the race where tactically I wasn't thinking anyone was going to do that.
Brett, coming from the Big Island, thoughts?
Aloha. Jeff, kind of going back to what you said, it sounds like, the two, Adam and Tracen are the two of the, correct people to get those world spots, especially, how you're describing Tracen's abilities on technical terrain. It's I'm just thinking oh, sick. That sounds great then for September. It was cool to see, from the coverage standpoint. I was following it on Instagram and hearing about tactical moves being made, not just someone squeezing from the front the whole day. It was there was a lead pack, and then it looks like Tracen broke it open, and then it was oh, is Adam, just, is he going to not win? And then all of a sudden, was it like 8 miles later? It's like Adam's 2 minutes up. I was like, how does he always does this? Like, it's like he doesn't panic when a hard move gets made that might not be in the right place for him, which, I think probably is one of his superpowers. He seems to be very good at gauging, running the correct effort level to win the race. I feel like that's like one of his superpowers. It seems like he's so good at being able to just gauge like timing and, the second half tactics of where he's at, where everyone else is at, where he should be, where he should make his move to win. It was just, again, so impressive to see.
One of the things that Leah Yingling mentioned in the recap episode that Free Trail did post 100K was how, and I think maybe she asked this to Tracen, but just curious sort of about a perceived identity change, because as you were kind of alluding to, Brett, Tracen's been known as this guy who will quietly sit back and then make his way to the front gradually. Sometimes it's too late, for example, at Black Canyon a few years back. And also, I think when he was trying to go for the World's team and missed it by a spot in 23, I think at Sonoma. So it was cool to see him sort of recognize that, I'm assuming. And then also just being aware of sort of the times in our sport and having to kind of match things. And he's like, okay, like I've had that experience of near misses. And I mean, Jeff, maybe being in what your place was this year, right? Where like maybe you had one or two more matches to give at 30 or 40 miles in. I don't know. I'm just assuming. But like Tracen has played that role before, and he kind of like stepped into a new identity, which I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah. I think like for me, I at no point counted myself out of the race, even with 3.5 miles left. Like I didn't know. Seeing Joan De Leon the day before, like actually be in first at mile 20 or at 25K and a 30K and end up finishing not first. It's like, you don't know what's going to happen, whether that's someone's stomach turns, someone takes a fall. So I was trying really hard. Like I saw those guys at the turnaround, and Adam, I think at the turnaround, Adam was 12 minutes up on me with
Wow.
15 miles left in the race. Tracen was like just under 10 minutes up on me. Phil was just over 2 minutes up on me. And I was like, I can't count myself out. I need to like continue hammering the gas as much as possible, put everything I have like into getting to the finish line as fast as possible. And I had like some relative splits. I was not running that course on pace or split. I was trying to race that race. But yeah, my splits had, were kind of set for like 8:25. And all day we'd been quite a bit under those splits. And I knew the course record was, 8:28. I also knew that Adam was fully capable of running probably under 8 hours. It just was whether or not he was going to do it on that day. Tracen was like a big surprise to me. And I kind of thought in Tracen, I had this guy I was going to run with like a ways into the out and back section from 38 to 48. And then like really, try to drop and try to outmaneuver in this area where we'd have contact and I'd actually be able to see like, all right, what is he, how far ahead is he? And I was actually going to the bathroom when he made his move on me. So I was like checking my hydration, and next thing I looked up and he was like fully gone. And I started hammering and like got to the top of this rise and just saw him like he was 30 yards up on me and now he was 200 yards up on me or more. And it's like, all right, he's hammering. I need to respond and start hammering. And in that section, I went from 5th to 4th to 3rd to 4th in a matter of like 5 or 10 minutes, where the overall 3rd place finisher, Philip, also kind of saw what was happening and responded. And I think the race got away from Phil and I, but the rest of the pack as well. I remember afterwards Ryan Sullivan saying like, Jeff, I was hammering so hard the last 20 miles thinking I was going to close on you and you only opened up the gap on me. And it's like, yeah, that's how it felt for me as well with Tracen and Adam. So for those guys to go 7:59 and 8:05, It's
Pretty
not like,
damn good.
yeah, it's not like a slouch had that course record.
Yep.
But the women's race, similar, right? Shea Aquilano went 20 minutes under the course record. Jade was under the course record. I think Klaire was right at the course record.
I think she was a minute under.
Yeah, a minute under. So it was a historically like fast day at Gorge, and I think that's like the exciting thing that happens when you pull together a qualifier for a world's team, or I mean, even more so than a national championship. That was one of my reflections in the aftermath of the race was, sure, this is going to come from the guy who got fourth, but I kind of wish it was just the selection race and like more spots went to the folks who showed up and actually really showed they want to race at Worlds than go to the selection committee. But my other takeaway was like, that should have been the 100K nationals.
Mhm.
Like the fact that it didn't also double as a USATF nationals, I think kind of discredits how strong the performances were. And for, Adam, for Tracen, for Shea, Jade, Klaire, like that would have been maybe a little performance incentive from sponsors had that been a USATF national.
That's a really good point because, like, to qualify for the Olympic team, the Olympic trials are the U.S. nationals for that year, and then you like win that, you go on make the Olympic team. Like that actually makes perfect sense for making the world's team. It's like, yeah, you should be the like 100K national champ for this year.
Yeah, and I think like Broken Arrow, like that would be, I mean, that's a very different 50K national champ.
For sure, yeah.
Was this last weekend was 50K road, right?
Yeah, over at Mad City.
Yeah. But that was kind of my other reflection, but I didn't really have any doubt that it was like the wrong fit for the World's qualifier. And after going to that race and racing it, I still don't have a doubt. Like, yes, if all 6 spots for the World's team were selected from that race, that would be a different situation. I think we'd want to see a more mountainous race. But in terms of the format that kind of Gorge applied for and that our USATF, volunteers like kind of tried to usher in of having a competitive race, Daybreak and Free Trail did a great job making it competitive.
Yeah, and like, of the 4 people that are going to Worlds, 2 of them have made prior World teams. So it's not like we have proof. It's like they've run pretty well.
Won Worlds.
Yeah, one of them won it. Shea ran pretty well in her first Worlds team as well, and it's like for them to come back and then make another World team. It's like, okay, well, they're 2 good choices because they're already have shown that they can do it.
Klaire was also Worlds in Innsbruck.
Huh. And Tracen missed it by 1 spot. Yeah. And by the way, for people that don't know what we're talking about, when this venue was selected for the Long Trail qualifier a few months back, it was posted on Instagram. The comment section for it blew up. Yes, a lot of the complaints came from the peanut gallery, but there were some professional/elite runners that weighed in with critique. Ben Demon, Grant Barnett, Jimmy Elam, a few more. Like there was some criticism from people that have skin in the game, that could theoretically qualify for this thing. And so, yeah, I agree. I think it's been interesting to see Lake Sonoma being another example. Like these races that maybe 1 for 1 don't square with the ultimate World Championships venue, you still get people that you feel pretty good about contributing to the U.S. having a medal opportunity, right? Like I know in retrospect, looking back, I'm stoked that it was at Gorge. I think it was cool to see, and like Adam, Tracen, Shea, Klaire. Hell yeah. Like I'm bummed that Jeff isn't on the team yet, but sweet.
Thanks for giving me hope, Finn. That's very nice of you. Here's what I'd say is the main difference between Sonoma and Gorge. I haven't run Sonoma. I've heard it described as death by 1,000 cuts. It's like a bunch of small, painful little climbs. Gorge isn't a technical like mountain course. there are very technical footwork sections in like a couple miles of it. Super beautiful. Cannot say how beautiful that race was. I almost like ran off a 200-foot waterfall and felt like I was straight out of Pocahontas. Like it was amazing.
Nice reference.
Yeah. I was like very, very moved by how special that course actually is. But Worlds is in the end of September. And the difference with Sonoma was that race was like 6 weeks before a race in Innsbruck. And having been to Innsbruck this past March, Innsbruck's super steep. I know Confranc is also incredibly steep. Tracen, Adam, Shea, Klaire, the runners who are just selected for this also know what is ahead of them. And there's plenty of time for them to continue training on more steep and technical terrain. Like seeing Tracen's performance this last weekend, knowing that like he's got Mount Marathon and like some really awesome, like ambitious, steep and technical training and objectives ahead of him. Like I'm so stoked to see what he does in Confranc. And I think I have no doubt that Adam can go to Western States, do amazingly well there, go back to Montana and get very fit for like an OCC Worlds double. So I think this was a better selection race, mostly because of the lead up time that runners have to actually like, you know, do their kind of vert period in their training.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, same with Shea, who is like, I'm turning into one of the more compelling storylines for Western States. I feel like just being a lottery spot, but having like two baller races leading up to him. Like, are we going to see? I mean, the last person who had like a very high lottery finish was Cat Bradley, who
Right.
won the race. It's like, I mean, at this point, the way Shea's Black Canyon was very good, and like I would say this Gorge was better because I mean, winning is winning. Like, pretty nice trajectory going into Western States.
Yeah, from her and Tara. Like one of the big storylines for me after this weekend is just how much more interesting the women's race becomes at Western this year. Tara with the course record at Lake Sonoma on this new course that I think is 3 years old, and then Shea here at Gorge just blowing the doors off the thing. One last thing that I wanted to cover on Gorge before we move on, and that's I did want to discuss Adam Peterman for a second, because I was listening to the latest episode of the Boulder Boys show, which, by the way, like for anyone that doesn't listen, that show, it's my favorite show in trail running right now. Like and I went ahead and left them a 5-star review yesterday and said,
Whoa.
Dude, in the description, I said, "Damn it, guys! I think I'm going to be out of a job soon. Like you're making you're making the show on a weekly basis that I want to make." But anyways, they talk a bit about Adam Peterman, and I think they were vaguely criticizing the media, which Singletrack falls under that umbrella. And they were saying, like, I think that the media has essentially disrespected Adam Peterman the last 12 to 15 months, or at least forgotten about him, etc. And I think this is an interesting thing to talk about, because there was that stretch when he came into the sport where for whatever it was, a year or two, he was undefeated, wins Western States, at the time, a course record at Speedgo, just all of these amazing things, JFK. And then I think he suffered that crazy injury. I think he was doing like a winter half marathon thing in spikes or snowshoes, and it set him back. And then he had that Canyons race last year that kind of made him look human, a tough speed goat again. And, you know, he had the podium at CCC, the podium at Broken Arrow, but like it was just a year that made him look more human. And then he rebounds this year with, I mean, for example, what he just did at Gorge, which is incredible. And I don't know, my reaction when I heard that pod was like, I don't think anyone ever forgot about Adam or like didn't recognize his brilliance. It's just like, you know, Jim had those periods in like the late 2010s where it's like, okay, like, you know, what's happening? I feel like Adam had that, and he's coming out of it now. And like, if we're looking ahead to like this Unbreakable film, for example, like, yeah, like he belongs right there with Jim, Killian, Vincent, all those guys, Hayden, Caleb. Exactly. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
I mean, Adam is an amazing runner. Adam, the thing you left out there was, he was also the 2022 World Mountain Trail Running Champion.
Thailand.
And then Ultra Runner of the Year. He was the person that dethroned Jim as Ultra Runner of the Year, not Hayden. Hayden did win that this past year as well, but that was Adam Peterman, who went undefeated from Moab Trail Marathon, JFK. I'm sure there were some Montana 10Ks and 50Ks in there that went under the radar.
Canyons, Challenge,
Western States, World Championships. For me, so far this year, there have been 3 standout performances on the men's side, and all 3 of those people are going into Western States, and they're Caleb Olson, Jim Walmsley, and Adam Peterman. And I think,
how about Seth Ruling at Black Canyon?
That's not what I said. Yeah, but I don't put that in the same regard.
Wow.
I mean, it was a competitive race. There were people right there with him. I think it's quite a bit of an easier course. But I think what Adam did this past weekend, I think what Caleb did and what Jim did, are stand in a different league, in my opinion. And all 3 of those guys are high up there on my podium pick for way too early Western States predictions.
Dude, that's it's not even a way too early pick, I would say. We're getting into the
field hasn't been finalized.
This is a pretty confident pick. Yeah, I know. The field hasn't been finalized yet, but I mean, it's hard to have more than 3 people have days like that again at States, because I mean, all those days, like you said, were pretty damn good, and those are you convert that to Western States, those are very fast Western States times, very competitive performances.
Adam should not be discounted in any conversation.
I agree.
And I think he's willing to humanize his Canyons effort last year and talk through it. And that was a hard day for him.
I think that's what makes Adam a really good runner too. Is he's able to step back and look at something and make adjustments and tweaks and not immediately just go he didn't immediately jump right back into his old training volume, prior to breaking his ass. He retweaked things and, took time, almost kind of knowing I mean, I'm sure he wasn't fully expecting to just trash everyone at Canyons last year. I mean, I'm sure he probably expected to run a little better, but you could see the training. It's well, it wasn't quite there yet, but then it gave him the chance to build a really strong foundation. And now, I mean, shoot, it feels like he's maybe better than he was before now.
Brett, maybe this is a question for you. Do you feel like it's fair to say that prior to the last 2 to 3-ish years, or at least this current generation of ultra runners, it was more common to have either a traumatic injury or this overtraining event, and you would never return to form?
I mean, yeah, you didn't see. Well, it's weird. We haven't seen this sacral stress fracture thing nearly as much prior to this current era of running, but I think we're also just seeing recovery and taking the correct amount of time to recover from injuries. We're seeing that be a little bit more common practice, which is really nice to see. It's just healthier. There's not, and whether that's just rushing back because you need to, back in the day, maybe you needed to absolutely maximize every single racing opportunity for your contract. Maybe now you don't need to nearly as much. Sponsors are no, you should probably get healthy first so you can actually win some big races later. But I think another layer to that too is, what we've talked about in the past is actually putting together the full team. It's not just people jogging in the woods. Now it's Adam probably did a good amount of strength things, PT things, actual sports injury rehab things, not just, oh, I broke something, I'm just going to sit here and wait and then keep running and be oh, it hurts still, I'll take another week off. So I think a big portion of that is just recovering the way you're actually supposed to recover from a sports injury.
Okay. Moving on topics. I'm actually going to skip the Brian Meltzer article to go to Katie and Germain for a second. And Brett, I did not prep you for this question, but if we're bringing back our conversational pace segment to the Long Run Archives, my question to you is, when Katie and Germain moved from North Face to On, did they improve their shoe technology? Are they moving to better shoes?
I mean, hot take, absolutely. And that's because I know what's coming out, this summer from On. Well, I guess it's public knowledge. Like they showed them at TRE, like the Cloud Ultra Pro, and the Cloud Ultra 3. Like those are two like really, really good trail race shoes. And the one thing, I mean, we just saw Katie just had a full cross country season. Like you need road shoes if you're gonna, in like flats, if you're gonna train for that sort of thing. And On has like a full stable of footwear, which North Face just focusing on trail. It's really nice to have just that consistency across the board and light spray, because I just think that's really cool with what On is doing with their uppers, where they're like the robot sprays it on and it's a whole thing. I don't know how that's going to work in trail, but I bet they figure it out in the next few years. I do. I think it's an upgrade, especially with, I don't know, there's been some question marks with North Face trail shoes this year, particularly too. I mean, we've seen some of their athletes not wearing their, like what's supposed to be like their absolute best race tier shoe. And it's like, well, why not? I mean, we haven't run in that one yet. So there's definitely some question marks, and I have no idea what the details of like, Katie and Germain's previous contract was and what this new one's like. But as a whole, from a footwear standpoint, it seems like an upgrade, and especially with, I mean, Jeff, you talked about this, so I'm sure you'd be able to touch on it more with just like how how clear of a line of communication there is with athletes like yourself and like the footwear developers, and with how things can actually move and change and athlete input and all that good stuff. It sounds like On is doing a really good job of listening to their athlete feedback in regards to footwear development.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like, and because of things like that, like that's a fun team to be on. Like it's fun to be able to do things like that. Like, I mean, when we talked to TRE, like you had been running in that shoe for like a couple years, and you'd send them back. Like you wrote them a note with your
I wrote them a lot of notes. I write them
with your
notes
hand.
with all of my shoes.
Yeah. Which is super cool. I've never heard of like that, like any other brands where you've mailed that many pairs of shoes back to them that they can inspect and test.
Yeah, I think for the Ultra Pro, because now the Ultra Pro 2, like we're always so far ahead, and I'm always like, I think I heard someone speculate that like, oh yeah, the last couple of years, like Jim felt like he was just running in too many prototypes, and his like feet just needed to like be in something consistent. Maybe that's my issue too. Maybe that's why I'm not the best in the world. I've been working on the prototype for the Ultra Pro for the last couple of years, and the the next project's always in the works. But the Ultra Pro, probably 7 or 8 pairs that came to me. I ran in just exclusively that, send them back with my feedback, and that shoe's going to come out this June. It's awesome. It's what I've raced in since 2023 Western States. And like I can't speak to the North Face shoes. I'm really excited that Katie and Germain are back. Katie, and I kind of got into this sport at a similar time through similar paths, like through going to Middlebury College and working in the AMC huts in the White Mountains, and
Forged.
Yeah, she by way of Salt Lake and me kind of by way of Colorado. And Katie and Germain, like, there's actually exceptional good trail couples out there, like in a way where you start thinking about who the best trail couple 1-2 punches, and it's like, oh my god, Katie and Germain, easy. And then you're like, wait, there's Rachel and Tyler, there's the Albans, there's Killian and Elmo. Like it your brain starts to spin pretty quickly at how much talent there is dating one another or married to one another. Huge win for On to bring them back, because all of On's early storytelling around outdoor and adventure was with Katie and Germain. And in 2025, this summer, with the launch of the Ultra Pro and the Ultra 3, like, this is On's statement of, we're here to be a trail running brand, like, in this space in a legitimate way. The global team is really strong. With the two of them coming back, it's way stronger.
Couple things. I have a lot to say, actually. I was trying to think of another instance where athletes started with a brand, left the brand, came back to the brand. So Katie and Germain go On, North Face On.
Mm-hmm.
Hayden Hawks comes to mind. Hoka, Ultra Hoka.
Yeah.
I couldn't think of any others.
So
Go ahead.
I was talking to Leah about this, and she thought maybe Casey might have gone Hoka.
Oh.
I think she went Ultra for a while,
Yeah,
and then back to Hoka.
Okay.
Prior, and then I think it was Nike first. Well, I think it was actually Pearl Izumi before that, and then Nike.
Yep.
But that was all we could think of. It was like, not too common to return back. But gosh, I only can imagine what their return, looking at the footwear choices that they had when they were first running with On versus now. I mean, it's like a whole different company.
Rest in Paradise Speedboard.
The Grand Canyon has been filled.
They're referencing the groove in the bottom of On shoes that notoriously got stones stuck in them.
Yes. And for the record, there are still people out there who see the holes on the sides of the shoes and they're like, I don't get how anyone could run in these. They would just completely fill up with mud. And I'm like, how do you do that? Like, they're like, how do you not get stuck, sticks and stuff stuck in there from the side? I was like, how do you get stuff stuck in from the side of the shoe? You're rolling your ankle that hard?
So, okay, On was pretty quiet last year. I think from a marketing standpoint, so it's cool to see that now sponsoring TrailCon. They've got this new shoe, new marquee athletes. They left the Cirque series, so I don't know what they're going to pivot into from that. I don't know if TrailCon was the answer, if there's more events, right? Or Jeff, you might have more answers there. And then before I forget, I want to say, and Jeff, you make a cameo in this piece of content, but On made that film about Katie's Hut Traverse.
Yeah.
That was sick. Like, bring that kind of content back.
Yeah, On made a film about Katie's Hut Traverse. On made this wild kind of pseudo animated film about Katie and Germain running across the Alps in some context. And to be fair, Katie and I have not gotten to be teammates with On. She and Germain kind of left On as I was coming on board with On, and that was all just kind of post COVID. So we've never really gotten to do much together. I think they are awesome people and incredibly entertaining. So I'm excited to have them as teammates, share a lot of the same loves and passions. But when Katie and Germain were with the brand, definitely put money and investment into creative and social content around them. And there's been a little bit of a joke, what does one of us on the trail team with On have to do to actually get on social media? Because the On social media is pretty curated of Helen O'Beary, Yard Nagoose, OAC, and then super hot kind of athleisure, mixed urban, athletes.
Yeah.
And when Baptiste was signed earlier this year, they did a really cool signing video with him of kind of popping into the record shop, and it was all right, On's responding with this whole 2025 more direct openness to trail. And I think TrailCon will be a big event there. I think having Adrian McDonald and Jeff McGavro racing in Western States, having Katie and Germain racing at Hard Rock, I think hopefully we'll see a lot more On in the marquee races and also on podiums throughout the year.
One last question for you guys, Brett. Curious to get your take first. Knowing what you know about what On has in the pipeline, in case it changes your view, which brand for trails offers the biggest mechanical advantage right now?
Yeah, I still think that's such a loaded question because you say trails, and it's like, which trails? Because
Let's go Western states for now.
yeah,
Western
because
states for now.
okay, because it's like Western states. I mean, Western states still you get a shoe that you can like survive the high country and then some that you can like run pretty well, and like it sounds like that. I've been like the from what I've seen, because I think I squeezed my foot into one of the samples at TRE of the Cloud Ultra Pro, and it felt like it was like the Adidas, the Speed Ultra, but more refined. Like, if we're talking like wine years, like it had been aged for a while, and it's like now is the time to open the box and put them on. Um, because like the Adidas, the Agravic Speed Ultra is like a great shoe for something like Western States if like the upper works for you, if the aggressiveness of the rocker works for your arch, if you don't snap your ankle in half. It's like if you're okay with all those things, it's a great shoe. The On one just felt like it was like kind of fixed a lot of those problems, but still maintained a lot of that snappiness. Which also then leads to probably like somewhat of a follow-up of like, well, what about not Western states? What about something like UTMB or Hard Rock? It's like, well, now you want a shoe that's not just full stiffness, because like the carbon and like that's one thing On figured out is they were like, well, the carbon wasn't the greatest answer out on the trails. Like having like a little bit of flexibility does go a long way in terms of like your nimbleness. So, I mean, I think On's going to be one of the better brands to race in this year. But then, yeah, I think it's going to come down to so much personal choice because there's just a wider variety of choices. I mean, I see like you got the Norda 005 behind you, Finn. Like for some people, that's going to be the best Western States shoe. Like I would want something that's got a little bit more like protection and stiffness to it. But like for a lot of people, like that just lightweight flexibility, that's going to be the right answer. And now you're just going to have all those choices. Like you're not just going to have to buy a carbon plated, basically road shoe with tread anymore. You can actually get like a shoe that's been tuned for trails.
A couple things to add. I'm not the host of a shoe review podcast, but that the Ultra Pro from On uses a nylon plate instead of a carbon plate. That's kind of what Brett was referring to there. I think the categories that break down in my mind are if you look at Nike, Adidas, and On, they all have a pretty narrow kind of midsole. Like it's not a super wide footprint like Hoka's Tecton X2.5. The like for Western States, I think you can those shoes that are a bit narrower through kind of the arch, maybe have more of that carbon or nylon plate and save some grams on like the big wide sole. That would be my direction for something like Western States. I see, I kind of feel like that Hoka shoe is designed more with UTMB in mind of like wanting a bigger platform for, some more technical or just like longer time on your feet. You go from like this is a really like refined racing shoe to, okay, extra stability for maybe more hours. So when you just like actually look at the grip on the bottom of those shoes, Nike, Adidas, and On are over in like the much smaller footprint, and then you go Hoka, Ultra. I can't speak to many other brands with just overall wider foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, moving on. I'm jumping a little bit, but I want to talk about Des Linden. We've had her on the pod before. There was this moment, I want to say it was a year or two ago. It was shortly after she had done that 50K world record on the road. I was like, I wonder if she's really starting to think about investing in trails. And then I kind of got to learn a lot more about all of the appearance fees associated with like the Boston Marathon, the New York City Marathon. It's like, well, even if you've like outlived your competitive relevance, there could be like X number of years where that money is just too good to pass up, and you keep training for it, and it delivers things
forever. As a Boston champion, like if she wants to go back and run Boston, like Boston will have her forever.
Which makes this moment so interesting to me, because you see her out in New Zealand training with Ruth Croft. You go to her ultra sign up. She's signed up for Tunnel Hill in November, Western States training camp this May, and it's been Ken Seals at the Ultra Minute confirmed that she is pacing Joe McConaughey on race day. So like quite a bit of investment in ultras this year. Go ahead, Jeff. Go.
That is so sick.
That is so sick.
How cool is that? I mean, we've said it before. Like Des is like one of the people that was like front of mind. We're like, who would you like to see who's a marathoner right now? Try and do some trail things. And it was like Des Linden. It's like one of those.
I mean, I think the 2018 Boston Marathon victory is a good reason to choose Des. Like that 100%. Was a brutal race, and like it was 33 degrees, pouring rain, and like 20-mile-an-hour winds. It was just adverse conditions, and those are like the type of conditions trail runners are typically, respond well to. Des pacing Joe is so cool. I'm excited about seeing that. I think last fall, maybe it was 2 falls ago, Andy Cochran, photographer in the trail space, brought Des, Tim Tollefson, maybe Magda, brought a crew to do like this Kyoto to Tokyo mail route, which was like all a trail run. And apparently Ruth Croft, I think, was there. Apparently Des like loved it. And I think that was the Des Ruth kind of connection. So I'm really excited about that. I think knowing that she's pacing Joe, it gives a little bit more context to why Des signed up for Western States training camp. But everyone should sign up for Western States training camp.
So fun.
I wish I'd done it 10 years ago. Doing that last year and getting to run.
Go for the massages alone.
Oh, dude, Monsters
the
massage.
Massages are great. Yeah, they're amazing. But getting to experience that race course and those volunteers and that community in that setting is, in my opinion, it was actually like, it added to the value and how special racing Western States is. When you're actually racing Western States, like it's survival. You are not like in this moment of like, wow, this is so cool to like, meet these volunteers and hear their life story necessarily.
Yeah.
Unless something's gone awry.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Tunnel Hill in the fall, because does Des currently have the 50K national record?
Yeah, the road one.
So.
Yeah,
the road one. Yeah,
might be the world record.
It might be the world, and it's definitely on roads though.
Yeah,
but I mean, I think as far as the competition at that level of our sport is super high already. Like Courtney Olsen is incredibly fast. We've seen Camille Herron put down amazing times, in the past as well. Like bringing Des into that mix makes that end of the sport a lot sharper and like really exciting.
Yep, absolutely. All right, here's my way too early prediction. Tunnel Hill 50 gets pivoted to Javelina 100. What do you think of that? I think a Western States pacing and crewing, Western States training camp, and then enough time to train for Tunnel Hill 50. There is going to be way too much pull to next year's Western States to run Tunnel Hill, and it's going to be Javelina instead.
So is Des the Magda 2.0?
Yeah. Yep.
Is Des the second coming of Magda?
Yep.
So here's why I buy that even more. Des Linden is an Arizona State alum. She's a Sun Devil. She spent 4 years at that school competing. Like she knows that area. She knows McDowell.
Yeah, and trains out there, and I know Javelina is on her radar as well in terms of racing. Was it 2 TREs ago? We had a big chat about what would be the potential lowest barriers to entry to Western States. for Des, and I was like, I think it's Javelina for you. Like, I know it's 100 miles and there's other 100Ks, but like that would probably be your jam, being in the desert, runnable.
This is just coming to mind too. So she also made an appearance at UTMB 2 years ago. I think the Brooks Trail team sent her out, and I think she also spent time with Ruth there. And I think it was Luke Webster. He's a photographer based out of, I think, Boulder or Denver. He got a bunch of cool photos of her. And there's this one awesome photo where it's either at Grand Col Ferret or Valdorcine, but it's pissing rain. And allegedly, this is what he relayed to me, that he got this photo of her just like, in total rain gear. It's downpouring. She has a cowbell. And he's like, I got this photo of Des out on the course cheering the back of the pack. She's been out here for 8 hours in this same position, just like transfixed, loving it, cheering people on. Like, it's her first moments in the sport, and she's already core sport. She gets it. So, just adding to her legend.
Okay. Petition to pivot to Javelina 2025.
I like the Javelina pick.
Let's start that.
Okay. All right. We got to go to this one. So let's run. I know it's a cesspool.
Yeah, that's an understatement.
But
yeah, let's hear it. I want to hear it.
Maybe. I'm just kidding. The one of the threads on there is, could LeBron James break 5 minutes in the mile? If you don't know who LeBron James is, one of the greatest basketball players of all time. It's a running podcast. You never know.
I guess
that is right. Impossible.
Yeah, there's no way.
Anyways, but one sec. The question is, would he break 5 in the mile? And as I was researching this, I found an even more fascinating Let's Run thread. The University of Houston college basketball team, there was an article there that the team average in the mile is 5:19. The slowest is 5:45, and it's their center, this 6'9" guy who weighs 275.
I think that's amazing.
Is it 5:45 mile? So, and LeBron is, for context, he's 6'9", 270. So
LeBron is a freaking unit of a human. I mean, oh my God.
I love this topic because, it just is now playoff season in the NBA. March Madness just ended. Basketball is my favorite sport to watch outside of kind of running and skiing, which I live and participate in. Years ago, there was like a Malcolm Gladwell, LeBron James kind of challenge of who could win between those two. Malcolm Gladwell, I think skinny, maybe Canadian author and podcast host, legacy cross-country runner, and actually quite fast.
Yeah, great master runner.
Yeah, I think he still runs like a 445, 450 or something like that in the mile. But he also pondered if LeBron could go sub 5 in the mile. And I think we got to remember that LeBron is now 20 years into his NBA career. I'm not saying anything about like a 39-year-old trail runner. All I will say is like, I have the utmost reverence for Tyler Green, Courtney DeWalter. 39, 40 years old in trail running is amazing. But in basketball, like, I think basketball, first off, fittest players of any sport play basketball. And like, they're my favorite athletes to watch. Sure, middies in soccer are going to be faster, but LeBron is jumping. He's using his body in like a very pounding, demanding way, day in, day out. I think 15 years ago, could LeBron break 5 minutes in the mile? My answer is yes. Today, my answer is, I bet he can still run quite fast, but I think he's enjoying those like tall glasses of red wine after games like a little bit more now in the sunset of his career than maybe he was when he was 25. What's
he running off the couch, in your opinion?
Probably pretty close to that same center from Houston. I think 5:45. Yeah, I do. And the biggest thing about that Houston story that shook me was like, these are some of the best competitors in the world. I fully would expect some of those guys who ran 5:06, 5:07, and 5:08 to want to break 5 minutes in the mile, like to want that barrier. And I was less surprised that the center who weighs 270 ran 5:45, and more surprised that these like point guards who are so fit didn't run under 5 minutes.
No, that's a good point about just like seeing that barrier. But it's like, what, like maybe if they just did it again, like honestly, even it's like the next day, Because it's like, it's a whole calibration of like a continuous movement for 5 minutes versus like shorter wind sprints. It's like, I'm sure if they did the next day, they all knock like 15 more seconds off because it's like, oh, I get this now. But with what you said about LeBron, like, I totally agree. Because my notes that I wrote down was like, are we talking 5 minutes in the mile right now? Or like ever? Because it's like, well, if LeBron, like ever in the history of LeBron's life, if he wanted to run under 5 minutes in a mile, like that definitely was happening. Especially like
and I'm not saying specific training either,
yeah,
right?
like
with
basketball
with his
training.
fitness in the NBA, yeah, for sure.
And like if you gave LeBron, like how long could LeBron, like from starting now, he's training to break 5 minutes in the mile. How long does it take before he does it? Like do you think he could, like how quickly do you think he could do it? Like could you do it in like 6 weeks, 8 weeks? Or would he need a little bit longer to get his like zone 2 on or something?
Did you guys ever watch the Chris Chavez, Malcolm Gladwell showdowns?
Yeah.
On the next, yeah, like there's just like seeing their quest to like break to see Chris's quest to break 5. And then I put LeBron in that camp.
LeBron's
I just see
one
LeBron,
of the best athletes in the world.
I just see LeBron getting there faster than Chris.
Yeah.
So I hear that, and I think one of the videos that came out was like this couple-minute video of LeBron running laps around the basketball court, and basically like every time he'd get to the 3-point arc, like someone would pass him a ball and he'd lay up and then run the other half and lay up, and he just kept going and going. And like the endurance was clearly there. Again, this is a couple years ago. I don't know if he's like physically gonna make it to sub 5 right now. Even with like specific training. And I think some of that is just the mileage on his joints.
Yeah, he's got a lot of wear and tear on his body.
Yeah, the dude plays so hard.
I mean, 24.9 points per game this season. Washed. Finally under 25 from his rookie year. I think that's what the stat was. He did like 22 continuous seasons. So
yeah,
you're right. 24.9. No, not sub 5.
I think he's off the couch breaking 5:30. I think LeBron runs a 5:28. That's my prediction.
Yeah. That actually reminds me of this other Let's Run thread, the only other quality piece of Let's Run ever, which was, it was this question of like, if the clock starts in like 10 seconds and you have to cover the distance of a mile from whatever it is that you're doing right now, what's your plan and how fast do you think you could do a mile? I know, Jeff, you're at a bit of a disadvantage having just run Gorge, but it was such a funny thought experiment of like, where am I? Do I put shoes on? Which direction do I go? Oh, 4-wheel drive. Jeff with the Crocs.
I was gonna say, I think I just turned my Crocs into athletic mode and go.
Yeah. It's like, I'm totally effed here.
Okay, one of these days or one of these episodes, we should do a top 10 list of Let's Run thread titles.
Oh gosh,
I think that. Brett, my favorite recent one is Craig Engels has a 70s haircut and runs 70s times.
Oh, man. Yeah, I mean, there is some creativity there, but damn, dude, I don't know if I could go top 10. They're all pretty trash after like 5. I could go like 3 or
5, but... Okay. Unbreakable 2 announcement. So for anyone that's been living under a rock, it has been announced that Free Trail and Journey Film are in partnership to produce a sequel of the 2010 film that followed Anton Krupicka, Jeff Rose, Hal Kerner, and Killian Jornet at the 2010 Western States 100. That was a crazy year because it felt like there was an inflection point and things were getting more serious. People were dedicating themselves more to the race, innovations in tech, strategy, etc. Similar things happening in 2025. They haven't officially announced the names, but it looks like it's going to, and if I miss anyone, let me know. Adam Peterman, Vincent Bouliard, Killian, Jim Walmsley, Rod Farvard, Hayden Hawks, and I think David Roche. Is that roughly who it looks like it's going to be?
I think so.
Okay. Based on the reel that came out, it looked like that.
Yeah.
The first two, go ahead, Jeff. Yeah.
I was just going to say when Unbreakable came out, I don't think there was the same amount of cameras out on the course. Finn is someone who just made an amazing film recently. Like, you were able to ask around for other coverage of, Jasmine at Barkley and whatnot, and try to find historic coverage. I don't think that was necessarily an option for Unbreakable. When it came out, I think it was like, there's a camera out here like filming this, and there's even older Western States films. I think there's one from like 2003, but this summer, I'd say there's going to be more cameras on Western States course than any other year. And while that doesn't necessarily give them, like, I think they're trying to do this format of interviews beforehand, film the race, put out a movie like in some time afterwards. I do think they have a unique amount of flexibility with, Jeff McGavro like comes out of nowhere and wins Western States. Like, who got footage of Jeff? Let's interview Jeff afterwards. And like, there is more flexibility for that narrative. Like for Seth, for like one of these other top runners to actually like have their day, and the Unbreakable 2 like can respond. Whereas I don't think that was necessarily an option before. So I know they have like set runners in their trailer. I don't feel like they're as married to that as maybe it seems.
Yeah. One thing that I think is different about Unbreakable versus Unbreakable 2 was, I don't think there was ever any announcement that they were making a movie before that 2010 Western States. Because a lot of the interviews and stuff and footage was taken after Western States, where they went and captured the story, just let it happen, and then put together the movie. I'm sure JB Journey film had, more plan than that going into it. But where I was going with that is, I'm curious what this announcement of the movie does in regards to like the creation of it. Like, will it be as organic as the first Unbreakable? Even though now like everyone knows there's an Unbreakable 2 being made, like I'm gonna be the hero. I'm gonna send it from the front. Like, I'm gonna do crazy shit with my crew because we're gonna be in the movie. And I know from like a marketing standpoint, they're like, why would we ever hide this before the race and then, wait until afterwards to announce it? But, there's always like, I always get nervous for all the pre-race interviews and all of the like public like openness that all of these athletes like now have to have going into this race. I just don't want the announcement of this movie to change like basically the dynamics of the race.
I mean, to your point, Jeff, earlier about the fact that there's significantly more media on course, and actually I would say I'm actually surprised that the race still has the media policy that it does, because it's getting pretty crazy.
Insane.
It's insane. I mean, I was at Michigan. I've told the story on the pod before. I was at Michigan Bluff last year with my lowly Insta360 and waiting for Jim Walmsley to come through. He comes around the corner, and I start to just like walk over to his crew, and all of a sudden, like a swarm of ants or flies converging on like a dead animal. You have like 30 videographers, 40 photographers descending on him. I mean, literally like creating like a ring. And I just had to step back and like look at, like, that was more interesting than the shot of Jim with his crew,
Yeah.
And so what I'm saying here is I believe I Run Far gets special access to some aid stations because of the way they cover the race. Like, they get to be at Lion Ridge, for example, up in the high country. I think it'd be pretty cool, given how historically important this documentary could be. I think it'd be cool if, maybe it's already in play, but like, could they get access in between aid stations or at the aid stations that media can't go to, and tell that angle of the race and the story that, like, won't be copy pasted from, 40 other outlets.
Sure. Yeah.
Well,
it won't be all the same aid stations that we usually see.
They did select a media partner with a primary owner on the board of the Western States, so maybe.
Yeah.
Hopefully there's some strings are able to get pulled.
I will say, as someone who's that is very true at Michigan Bluff and at Forest Hill. It's not so much true at Pointed Rocks, but like of the crew access points, the media like kind of frenzy it's the worst at Michigan Bluff, and like Robinson Flat, it's a little bit spread out. As a runner, I always really appreciate when there's like a single photographer out there, 5 miles from an aid station or whatnot, like clipping photos, because it's the only person you see. And like you don't really have, like, you just have maybe Ryan or whoever's doing the live stream at Devil's Thumb. There's a lot of that course that's like quite lonely. And then you kind of get swarmed at Michigan Bluff and at Forest Hill. But even Forest Hill, because that aid station is a mile long, it's not the same type of like chaos. Michigan Bluff is just, it's all right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a choke point.
I'm excited about this. There's been a lot of buildup for this race. I think the buildup like continues. And like, I think the point that you made, Brett, is that like, if I were racing this year, I would not want to be one of the people that is being followed.
You want to be the Jeff Rose.
Yeah, who you're kind of like, wait, that guy won. Let's go interview him afterwards.
Fully.
Right. And like, I think the reason is like, there's a lot of pressure that comes with that race to begin with, and to be also like then the focus of whether it's a pre-race interview, a pre-race panel, or like 6 weeks leading up to the race being, interviewed regularly about how your training's going. Like we kind of joke about the free trail, preview episodes being a curse. Like anyone who gets a free trail episode made about them before a race, like doesn't have the best race. And I would say that psychologically there's something to that. And like, maybe not everyone responds that way, but I think it's important to view our sport for what it is, which it's not a basketball game or a tennis match. Like, our sport goes on for a long time. And like, to be out there for 15 hours, it's like, it's different than getting this clutch shot, or like, all right, there's all of this media hype around me. I need to like get this point. Like, your brain needs to be actively in it for a really long time. And like, I think having media around you and like kind of like building up of like, oh, are you going to be able to do it? Are you going to be like the contender for the win at Western States? Like, I wouldn't want that psychological trip personally.
Well, Jeff, let me ask you this. If Free Trail approached you, let's say you were in Western this year, if they approached you and said, hey, Jeff, we would love to spend the day with you out in the Roaring Fork Valley, just like day in the life, following your training. We cannot promise you that you are going to have a place in the film, but you might. Would that take pressure off you? Would that feel different than like, you are definitely a subject in this film? This all counts. Like, if there's a little bit of hedging there, do you feel better about the experience?
Maybe.
That's an interesting thought experiment.
Yeah. I would like to think that I'd have the foresight to be like, come find me after the race. Come join me for a day in the Roaring Fork Valley after the race. But who knows? I mean, like I think the like years that I've been in this sport, I have not sought out like, oh, I want, this film project or like some content piece about me. And I don't think my story is all that interesting. And like, there's a lot of amazing content and stories to be told. And like, I want to champion those that, I think are maybe bring more value than mine. And like, I'm a distance runner. I'm like, of course I think I'm a piece of shit. Like, that's, I go out there and like,
go jog in the mountains.
Yeah. Keep punishing myself every day. But like that's a little bit where my, mind comes from there. Like, that's not to say that like, when there's a really compelling storyline or a really compelling race, like, I want to follow along with it. And, like, I'm so happy that, the chase was made, and I can't wait to see that film. And like, I'm getting super hyped up on Cocodona this year because of like, that storyline. But Yeah, Finn, I still commend you. I'll commend you many more times, but the finisher was awesome. And like, I think you did a great job telling that story retrospectively. I'm sure you wish you got more content of Jasmine on that day, but if knowing you were going to get more content of Jasmine on that day would possibly impact whether or not she finished the race, would you have wanted to do that?
Certainly not.
I don't know.
That's a really good question. Yeah, that's a really good point.
It's like the balance.
That's why I think another possible, and I've actually told this to Caleb Olson, because one idea that we've been floating around is like, what if you just do this sort of relatively carefree collection of content over the course of a super long time horizon, like 3 to 5 years, and there is no pressure on any given race. It's just for the sake of history and cataloging your career. I want to be there for this, this, and this, and maybe, just maybe, something comes out of this, but maybe not. And we're totally prepared for a scenario where nothing comes out of it. You just have a bunch of cool B-roll that you just have in your, storage locker for life, whatever.
Yeah.
As long as you're also getting, the Kanye approach, as long as you're also getting Jack Kensel in the mix and ideally getting like way more of like Jack's speculation about how Caleb's going to do in each race. Yes, I want that. I think Caleb is one of the most interesting and compelling storylines in the sport right now. And part of that is just like how outstanding, his performance was in February. And like, I certainly want to, I will eat up whatever I can get on Caleb, because I also I see him as a peer who is like checking all the right boxes, doing all the right things, and having all-time results right now.
Okay. I'll say two things, and if you guys have anything we can weigh into, but I think in the Dylan Harris, and I think Jamil would corroborate this, having 5 or more athletes in a film is a huge challenge just because of the unpredictability of things getting stretched out. Conversely, if you do want to hedge, and if some people have bad days or don't make it to the start line, I think 5 or more athletes, 7 athletes is great. So I actually think that this is a good play. I'm excited they have a bunch in the hopper. My only concern is, as it stands right now, if they are going with these 7, that's a ton of Hoka athletes. And I'm worried that this is going to become an ad for Hoka, as opposed to like a diversified picking of people there. I guess it also just so happens that a lot of the coolest athletes in the race are Hoka athletes. Like Hayden is awesome. Adam's, Vincent, like you wouldn't want to take any of those guys out of the mix because they're all great and they're probably going to have great races. But
you don't want that to be like the focus.
Right.
It's like,
it's Hoka, is this just is this a Hoka ad? I don't know. Yeah,
like I do not want to have finished the film and just be like, be sure to drink your Ovaltine. Son of a bitch.
On that note, I think Hoka will probably recognize that, right? Like, I sure hope that Hoka decides, based on the fact that this Unbreakable 2 thing's happening, we don't have to put money into making content creation around this historic lineup of athletes that they have at this race. And if I were looking at, this Unbreakable 2 storyline, maybe it's all right, I'm going to not focus on some of these Hoka athletes, knowing that Hoka is going to put out a stout content piece that, brings John Ray and the rest of that Hoka team into the mix. And, maybe that's backup of Hoka's got that if we need it. And they're going to want to share it with us because we're putting the energy into this film. Thinking back to the OG Unbreakable, I love that you said it was like an inflection point of science and improvement in our sport, because we all just go back to Killian in the white spandex drinking a gallon of cranberry juice sitting on the ground. And times have definitely changed, but I kind of feel like there was a lot of Montreal in that film as the leading brand at that time.
Who was Hal sponsored by?
I think Hal might have been. I can't remember if that was one of his first years with North Face or last year's with Montreal, because he did.
I think he was.
He might have been North Face.
I only
Yeah,
say
he's
that like
second, yeah.
it's inevitable. Hoka has a really strong team of runners in the race this year.
Yeah, and that
yeah.
it's also just part of the story too, because like that's the era of running,
Yeah.
like ultra running that we're in.
I think there's like, I would put Caleb, I would put like, you know, in terms of folks who could disrupt that significantly, like, yeah, Caleb and Seth are certainly up there of like,
Yeah.
you know, I didn't mention Seth earlier because that performance he did was a crude race. And I think it's a different thing when you're running a crude race with pacers, but that's what Western States is. You know, if you're out there totally on your own, like it's a different setup than when you have a full like crew of great community and like people pacing you. Like he could definitely disrupt the storyline for Unbreakable too. I feel like there was some critique online around just like the fact that it's a story following just the guys race.
Yep.
I guess like my thought there is like, I think that's always important to acknowledge, but like it's a director and like, you know, the creative's decision to try to choose some focus. And like that, I don't give any criticism or critique there. There's been great races or great films that have followed just the women's race and great films following just the men's race. I think someone this year could make a really compelling story, you know, following the women's race at Western States. But
yeah,
I don't know
I
if
agree.
you guys think about that.
And if anyone out there is interested in doing that and wants to go the independent route and has questions, hit me up.
Yeah.
Because it's possible.
And if you want to
drain your if you want to drain your 401k and your savings, come talk to me.
If you have any critiques or criticisms, also send them to the Run Singletrack Instagram page as well.
First message test them at conversational pace, and then if send them over to Run Singletrack.
Don't worry, Finn. I will field all the inquiries for you and only send you the best.
Okay, I think we probably have time for one, maybe two more topics. One that I want to make sure we get to because I think it's interesting. It's kind of multifaceted, but so Brian Meltzer apparently is now a writer for Ultra Signup, which is interesting.
Ultra Signup's owned by Outside, isn't it? Yeah, it is.
Wait, really?
Ultra Signup is owned by Outside.
No.
Are you sure?
Trail Runner Mag is owned by Outside.
Trail Runner Mag.
Was Ultra Signup also bought by them?
Ultra Signup is it was purchased by Jay Kelly and David Callahan around COVID.
Okay, so it's separate.
But Brian was frequently a writer for Trail Runner, who was owned by Outside.
Come over.
Yeah, because I know. Yeah, sometimes
it's like Outside adjacent. It's like
a
covered patio.
Mm-hmm.
Like a little bit.
I know.
Outside.
I didn't see Brian's name in like the list of storied Outside contributors who signed that petition and quit.
That's interesting.
So I didn't know that Brian Meltzer left Outside.
Or is he like a freelance writer and he's able to?
No, I think he's gone. I think he was a part of that. One of the mass layoffs that happened. Yeah. So and I know he's writing at Ultra Signup now. And anyways, he comes out with this article about just a bunch of ideas for the sport. And one of them is an end of the season championship. And I know we've talked about that possibility on the pod before. It's not a new topic, but I'm really stoked on this on this idea of regional competition right now. And this idea that like people are sort of a mystery to the rest of the world while they totally invest in their local space and they do battle with the local competition. And maybe once a year to satisfy Brian's wishes, they do sort of come out of the woodwork and they meet at the end of the year at a place like the TNF 50 in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. But we have this really cool thing that's taking shape in Utah right now. It's called the Bear Tag system. And there are, I guess it's 6 races: DC Peaks 50, Buffalo Run 50, Scout Mountain 50, Snow Peaks 50, our race Twisted Fork, and the White Pine Backcountry 50. The male and the female winners of those races get an automatic entry paid to that year's Bear 100. And I love it because we're already seeing this happen on the ground. It's encouraging a lot of the local people on the scene to just like stay put and they get to do these races. Like there was an awesome battle that took place at the Buffalo Run 50 a few weeks back. It's going to happen at Twisted Fork again, and people are just like excited about the local scene. And I think that that's so cool because Brett, you and I, we had Scott on the podcast before Western, and he was saying before this whole era of like UTMB and stuff, it was this like regional pride was huge in the late 90s, early 2000s. And it was so rare when like Scott would go face off against Ben Hine at like Angeles Crest. You know, like that was their one meeting place on neutral ground every year. And what do you guys think about this?
Okay, so just one side question first. So like when I win Twisted Fork this year, can I defer my bear entry to 2026? Because I'm running Pine to Palm this year.
Unfortunately, you can't.
Okay.
And I know you're going to win. But what happens is you will decline it, and it will go down to second place. So
okay, so I will take the ticket and then get to like hand it like over whoever second is and be like,
you'll give it to Zach Hauer, and Zach Hauer will go race the bear.
Here you go. I don't want this. Okay, just wanted to clear that up. See if I. So
was there any physical tag? Like, is there an actual bear tag? Like, there's a ticket?
They clip your ear, and you have to just chill with that until September.
And they brand you.
Yeah.
It's actually because I saw it happen at Buffalo Run 50. Alex Proctor won the race. He got the bear tag, and it looks kind of like a golden ticket or one of these red, white, and blue tickets. It's just a poster with the bear tag kind of.
So I think that needs to evolve a little bit, and I'm mad kudos to the Free Trail team and Daybreak for like doing the red, white, and blue ticket. But like, what about just like, hey, here's an American flag, or like, hey, like for the bear tag, like doing something that's other than a ticket. I'm not one to save a 3-foot by 2-foot foam poster board ticket and put it somewhere in my house.
Do you still have your golden ticket? Have you saved it?
I didn't save either of them.
Really?
I donated one to the local run shop, and when they moved, they dumped it, and the other one I didn't bring back on the plane with me because I was like, I'm not going to do anything.
Should have sold it on eBay for rent money.
I have so much respect for Jared Hayes, and I just don't think I could live up to his legacy. But I think we can move away from this oversized check thing unless it actually comes with money, is all I'm saying. If you want to give an oversized check, give some money with it. I think it's cool that the bear tag involves an entry. I think there's like cool things that could be done where it's like, like, oh yeah, this is my bear tag. Even like a sick keychain, that's like you actually would put on your car keys, something other than a huge piece of, in my opinion, like waste. Anyone who's gotten golden tickets who like hung them up in their house, no critique. That's just like, that's not going to fly with my wife's decor. Also on the bear tag, I think it's awesome. And like we had a PTRA assembly meeting this morning, like the local races, the regional races, like that needs to be a continued focus, I think, for our sport to continue growing. And I think with our sport's continued growth, these regional races are getting more and more competitive. The bear tag system, I think, is a great like example of how a local 100 can really rally around some awesome regional races. And when you just said some of those, like I've always wanted to do Scout Mountain. There's a couple of races there I've always wanted to do. I also want to do the bear. Like knowing that's going to change probably how I plan my schedule next year and in the coming years. I'll get to Twisted Fork soon.
Do you still have that wedding on Twisted Fork weekend?
Yeah.
Damn.
Sorry, man.
Damn.
But
yeah.
But the like I think that's something like, Colorado's certainly missing. I think Moab and the Mad Moose series has tried to do that with like some of their kind of local races. There is like a local kind of 15 to 20 mile race series in Colorado that are like 4 small regional races that do that in a cool way, but there isn't a, incentive at the end of it to do all of them other than that they're like true mom and pop races. For Brian Meltzer's point, like I feel like TNF had that role for a while. I feel like White River had that role for a little while of like the 50-mile distance, in my opinion, and the fact that it is the chosen distance for like the worlds, I think should corroborate that and bring back America's great 50-mile races. But it's a distance that has gone by the wayside because of the number 100. And
Yep.
like, I don't think 100K is any better than a 50-miler. Like you go to the pain cave once in each of those races, like, you know, you start to die twice when you do 100 miles, not in 100K, right? Like the duration is kind of the same. I think the resurgence of like, whether it's Zane Grey, White River, TNF, these like
Jamez.
excellent, Jamez is so good. These excellent 50-mile races, like I think we can see, or we should see some kind of regrowth there. And if there was going to be like a national championship style race for ultra, in my opinion, the breakdown should be kind of along Worlds, where you have a proper sub ultra at 25 miles and an ultra at 50 miles. Where that is, when that is, all to be like discussed. I agreed with pretty much everything Brian wrote in that article. And like the 5 ways, you know, the sport could change. They weren't like crazy, but
Right.
you know, the championship style race, I think would be a cool format. And Ultra Signups tried to do that a little bit with their Dirt Circus, but that's like a 10K.
Yeah.
But maybe Bentonville, maybe Walmart has the funds to make this happen. Maybe it's Bentonville in the fall is the move. Heart of America.
Yeah, you just make 5 10-mile loops, give all the fans like chainsaws, that way we can go nuts with this. Not, you know, for the noise, not like to like chop people up. Finn, you sicko. But yeah, no, I think there's a lot of ways that you could make an end of the season super compelling, from like a championship type standpoint. Also, like I would love to see it be like not like an invite only, but like almost like a pro only kind of race, where I just want to like give myself the chance to like just watch it and like know I'm never gonna run it. You know, like I think that's one of the things I liked so much about Worlds and watching Worlds is because it's like the field has been assembled. It's small, but like very high quality. You know, we're able to like follow. We're just able to follow the race in a kind of a more unique way. You know, it makes the crewing just a little bit different. That's one of the things we just don't really have that a lot of other professional sports do have is like pro only races. Like you see like pro only mountain bike races all the time, and like a lot of like they're like looped courses, and like I freaking love watching like World Cup cross country mountain biking. Like it's so exciting, and I think because they do a really good job of just like showing it and like displaying it. Like I would love to see just like that. Jeff, what do you got?
I'm so torn because I actually think like the participation professional like sport being one and the same is one of my favorite things about trail
No, and
running.
I do definitely love
in
that.
our sport.
I
Yeah,
love that.
like this past
100%.
weekend, you know, a bunch of that Gorge course is out and back, and like I
Yeah.
was a little tired of saying thank you and good job to like 120 people, but I also was getting good jobs and cheered on by a bunch of people out there, which like that's uplifting, and it's
Yeah.
cool to I think there's a responsibility amongst professionals in the sport to like really engage with the fact that it is a participatory sport. I hear your like call for it's not like every race, but it would be this
Yeah.
race. One thing I like about Worlds is how the aid stations work and how it's crewed. Each country has a table and it has 2 representatives at that table, and that's the extent of it. And it's like super organized, it's super orderly, and
It feels
it's
fair
like in and
too.
out. It feels super fair. There's no like pacers and whatnot. So part of me is like, okay, I see the appeal to that. I guess I would say like from a race organization point, if you're doing a 50-mile race, it's like, hey, the time cutoff's actually 10 hours, or like the time cutoff's 12 hours. Like it's to be able to make this whole event happen in a like tighter, more succinct and like well-produced way. But it's like, if you have race result that shows, you know, you're going to be able to run the 50-mile distance in, you know, kind of under 8 or 9 hours or 10, 11 hours, like maybe then you can enter. I don't know. I don't know about it like being an invite style.
Yeah, I didn't quite
or
know
like
what the
super
wording
small
was for
field.
that. Yeah.
Because I kind of think that like, Philip Royer, who kicked my ass, beat me by 40 seconds on Saturday, like he showed up to USA 50K trail championships last year and he won in his first trail race. And like he just showed up and like proved like he's a real contender, like getting third at Gorge yesterday. And like it would be a bummer if it was kind of like invite only when you'd have this opportunity for someone to like show up and give their best shot.
For sure, yeah. Invite's probably not the right word, but like, because like he should be able to reach out to the racer and be like, "Hey, I'm a 2:18 marathoner. Can I run this race?" And they'd be like, "That's a fun story. You're in."
Yeah. I would just, going back to the regional thing, I would love to see a world where like there's some mystique building that happens and you don't find out about the Dylan Humbergers of the world until a very, very, very special occasion at the end of the year. It's like he just rips it on the Southern Oregon scene. Like his mainstay races are like the Siskiyou out and back 100K,
Yeah.
Like how many athletes, like how many in the realm of Dylan Humbergers are there in Northern California, in Southern Oregon, that could just like exist on that scene for 9 out of the 12 months a year, and then they show up in November or December to something special.
I definitely dig that. I mean, I think at Black Canyon, we saw that with New Jersey representing. I think at Javelina, we saw that with, I'm going to forget if Dan Green's from Virginia, West Virginia, or North Carolina.
Huntington, West Virginia, yeah.
Okay, West Virginia. So like there are like, I think as media goes, underrepresented like running communities across the country, that it's kind of when those athletes decide that they want to show up and try to get into Western states that maybe their names are more breakouts. True Heart being the all-time like legend of that. But I think there's a lot out there. And I think the regional race series, like it'd be cool if Colorado had a state championship. Like that would be a really competitive race and super fun.
Yeah.
Aravaipa has the DRT. That's sick. Like there are some of the infrastructure does exist. It's just like, how do you retain the athletes?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's just throw that ball into Aravaipa's court. They'll figure it out.
Okay. If it's 5 minutes, do we have time for one more? Maybe 5 minutes?
I got 5.
10 minutes, yeah, 15.
I got 5. Cocodona 250. Okay, so I got to bring the Boulder Boys back up. Listened to their latest step, as I said earlier. Love those guys. Love you guys. And Matt was talking about how for the longest time, maybe even still, 200 milers are the venue where all the misfits of our sport go. It's the people that can't be competitive at 100 milers, so they go up to 200. They just keep ascending in distance to find a place where they can be competitively relevant. And I mostly agree with him. I think that until very, very recently, Matt is totally spot on. I think last year Cocodona was a change because you can't tell me that the guy who got a golden ticket at Black Canyon this year, Joe McConaughey, isn't a legit runner. You can't tell me that Arlen Glick is not a legitimate, accomplished 100-miler podium at Western States. You can't, the list goes on. This year, Ryan Sands, Courtney DeWalter, like the Western States champions on both sides. Amazing. Do you guys think it's fair to say that we can officially change the narrative around at least the distance? I know that there's going to be a lot of races out there that you can kind of phone it in and walk your way to a victory. You can do that at Moab. You can do that at Bigfoot, a lot of those races, but not at Cocodona. You got to run the whole thing.
Yeah. I think that is true for Cocodona. For the Dona 401k, I think that is true. I don't think that can be a blanket statement for all 200s. Like probably Tour, Dijon. That's like a very competitive race. And Cocodona. Which is one of the things that makes Cocodona really special in the US, as it being it's turning into the de facto 200-mile championship race. It's like if you win that, you probably can go win all the other ones. And everyone everyone wants to win Cocodona now. And that to Matt's point, or to your point, it really did kind of happen in the last 1 to 2 years. where now it's like the race is selling out fast.
Right.
There are people who are like, like even like Mike McKnight, previous Cocodona champion, he was like,
Hiked his way to victory.
and he was like, the greatest comeback of all time.
Yeah.
He's like, I need to hunker down. Like, I need to start training seriously like a professional athlete and not a, quote unquote, like old school 200-mile runner if I want to be competitive at this race now, because that's where the game is at. Like Jeff Browning said the same thing, where he was like, oh, the aid stations are like this. Like, they're like 100-mile race aid station type stop. Like, we're not messing around anymore. Like, yeah. Like, and I think for Cocodona, the game has changed.
I think you could try to pinpoint who, maybe had that like cultural impact or changed. Like the fact that Joe is a super long trail FKT guy, like Joe has incredible range. Jeff Browning winning 600 or 700 miles a year for like 6 or 7 years straight. Like the guy is able to put up these huge efforts. I'd say even Courtney, like she's already won 200-mile races. For me, it was kind of Arlen, who was like, I'm kind of at the top of the game in the 100-mile scene right now, and I'm going to jump to this 200-mile scene that like really caught my attention.
Yeah.
But I think it's a collection of all of those runners making this like concerted, decision to like, hey, this race is super appealing. I'm going to shift my focus to it. And I'd say like in the next couple of years, I do think Courtney's decision to do Cocodona this year, we'll see that play out. But I think it's probably going to have a pretty big impact. I'm psyched for it. I'm definitely here for it. Like the 200-mile scene, it's just such a logistical, like, oh gosh, it's not like I'm taking Friday off work and going to a race for a weekend, which has kind of been like the blue collar approach I've taken for the last like 8 years. Like if I wanted to jump and do Cocodona, it's like, all right, this is a week of vacation time that I'm going down here and ideally getting an awesome crew to support. It's a much bigger ask. I understand why they cost more money. It's amazing that the live stream last year was able to be so captive for so long, and that, I'm excited to see the chase and what came out of that. I definitely think that Cocodona is getting the attention. I feel like it's going to spread, like not that the Spine Race or Tour de Jante aren't already getting these like global attention, but for racers who are thinking they're TDG folks, hey, maybe I actually could get a golden ticket to Western States, and vice versa. Like, I hope there's more of that cross-pollination of runners who are like, yeah, I did Western States this last year. It was super cool. I'm going to do the Spine Race next year.
Okay. I'm going to read you guys a quote. It's from an elite UK-based male ultra trail runner. He says, quote, I'm working in the lab with Leeds Beckett University using their state-of-the-art altitude and heat chambers to prepare for this race. The extremities I'm being exposed to and the program we are following is an evolution of their work with the Olympic marathoners that they prepared for Tokyo and Paris with the team, end quote. If you think that was Tom Evans, you are wrong. That was Jack Scott. He's running Cocodona this year. He won the Spine Race last year, which is the same race that Jasmine Paris won before Barkley. It's the UK's most prestigious multi-day race. He's talking about his prep for Cocodona. Like this is how far to the ends of the earth the athletes in this year's race are going to optimize themselves for a chance at a podium or victory here. Like he says, I'm going to try to run 59 hours at Cocodona, and I think this is the level of commitment it's going to take. Like this is a 200-mile runner saying that.
I love it. I'm so in.
Yeah, I think that's awesome.
I wish I was able to follow and engage more with like Courtney's prep for it, because I'm sure she's crushing it. I've been following with Dan Green's prep and like really excited for him to show up there. I think like in the 200-mile scene in the US, I think Aravaipa and Cocodona have created something really cool. That like the route is engaging and compelling, the way they're creating the narrative around it. And this initial question, Finn, you asked, like, is it time to kind of evolve this narrative of like, oh, it's where folks who can't quite compete at the 100-mile distance go to try to be relevant. Like, that's all any of this is, right? Is like, what is the public perception of that race, and how is it going to change or evolve? And, there's plenty of races we can all think of. Banderas may be like a good one. Like, you lose that golden ticket status and that race becomes irrelevant pretty quickly. And like, what is Cocodona going to continue to do to maintain that, competitive appeal for top runners? How is the perspective going to continue to evolve around it? Courtney's been the greatest ambassador for our sport in the last, 10, 15 years. I think the fact that she's showing up and racing it this year is huge.
Brett, before we go, any final thoughts on any of these topics that we discussed today, or anything we haven't discussed?
We covered a lot of good ground. I mean, just like the last bit about Cocodona. I mean, you saw it firsthand last year. Like, you saw it. Just so, like, you agree that, like, it's if you want to win Cocodona, like, you got to have, like, your shit together.
You got to lift Western weights.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing, interesting that, Jack Scott and Tom Evans, both Brits that have 2 first names. So, that's
Please
cool.
don't let that be the closing statement.
Yeah, someone else say something, please.
How about you, Jeff?
No, I mean, I think we've covered a lot. I think, yeah, for anyone who is ever discounting Adam Peterman stock, hopefully you're counting it again, because stock is on the rise. And a couple days, I don't know when they announced the Team USA selection picks for Resume, but we're just not going to sleep until then.
I'll say this, because we never got to talk about the Arizona Monster 300, so I'll just offer one statement here.
Mm-hmm.
It has been interesting this weekend to see how much TLC, Daybreak, and Free Trail pour into Gorge, how much the team at Lake Sonoma and Mountain Outpost pour into that race, and then to see that juxtaposition with the AZ Monster. And I give a lot of leeway to first-year races. I mean, we're in that position with Twisted Fork where even though we're trying our hardest, I'm counting on things to be unpredictable. But it's just really interesting. And so I just want to give, like, after seeing what we saw with Sonoma and Gorge this weekend, I'm just blown away, impressed by the general direction of the sports event scene. So I know we didn't get to talk about it today, but I wanted to leave on that.
Yeah, I don't follow Reddit that closely. I know that was like kind of where the AZ Monster critique and, like, feedback and stuff was living. But it's very special to go to trail races and feel like the entire community is excited about being there, is lifting each other up. Jeremy, who's the race director for Daybreak at Gorge, did an awesome job, and, like, sent him an email this morning being like, thank you so much. This was an unreal weekend.
Dude, you kill it with the personal notes. I gotta get on the personal note game.
You're going to be a race director here in a minute. I hope people send you notes to thank you, because I think you're going to be really tired afterwards and feel like, was this all worth it? And those race directors need to know, hell yeah, it was worth it. But yeah, I don't have much to comment on the Arizona Monster. I think, there was some critique that this weekend had a lot of races going on that, kind of diluted from one another. And maybe that was somewhat true. I didn't actually see a ton of competition at Desert Rats. It didn't seem like those fields were quite as deep, with the exception of the shorter distance race. But it's also good that there's enough races to go around that, different race directors can make a living doing it, and people can find inspiring race courses to go race and compete on.